Man, this week's Tulsa King really threw us for a loop, huh?
It did.
It's like everything just exploded. Alliances are shattered. People are dropping like flies. Honestly, I'm still trying to figure out who to trust at this point, you know?
Yeah.
We've got these 2 awesome recaps to help us break it all down, but even then, I'm still kind of reeling from it all.
It's definitely one of those episodes that leaves you kind of speechless.
Totally.
Just the way they build the tension, you know? It's like you can feel it ratcheting up with each scene.
Oh, absolutely. And it feels like everything we've been watching, all these power struggles and simmering tensions, they've all just come to a head at once.
Right. And the fallout from this is going to be massive.
For sure. But okay, where do we even begin?
Well, let's start with the guy who seems to be having the hardest time right now.
Yeah.
Armand.
Oh, Armand, yeah.
Yeah.
He went from being the comic relief to, well, kind of a tragic figure, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we see him making just one bad decision after another in this episode.
Oh, totally.
And it's all driven by this desperation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, first he betrays Dwight, then his whole attempt to get into witness protection just blows up in his face.
Yeah.
And by the end of the episode, he's just lashing out at everyone. He's totally isolated. He's on edge. It's rough.
It is that scene with his ex-wife, Clara. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see how much he just wants a way out, a fresh start.
Right.
But she just shuts him down so hard.
She does. She does. It really highlights how far he's fallen, you know?
It does.
And what's really interesting is that all this desperation actually makes him a major wild card in all of this. He's already shown he's willing to cross Dwight, so who knows what he'll do next. I mean, he could be the one who throws everything into total chaos.
Yeah, he could be the catalyst, definitely. Which, I mean, talk about chaos. There's already so much of it brewing. I mean, we saw Chickie get completely ousted from the Invernizzi family, too.
Oh, yeah.
Vince has obviously been playing the long game, biding his time, but seeing Chickie fall from grace like that, it's almost Shakespearean.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good reminder that even in that world, the world of organized crime, power can be really fickle.
For sure.
And I think, you know, Chickie's arrogance, his single-minded vendetta against Dwight, it kind of blinded him to what was happening around him.
Yeah, he was so focused on Dwight. And let's be real, he wasn't exactly subtle about how much he hated him. So the question is, what's he going to do now? How's he going to react to being cast out like that? I mean, will he go after Dwight directly? Or maybe even target his family? That's what some of these recaps are suggesting. And that's pretty terrifying to think about.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like a wounded animal, you know? He's lost everything. And in his mind, Dwight's the one to blame. That makes him really dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of dangerous, can we talk about Jackie for a minute? He just pulled off this incredibly cunning takeover of Thresher's weed operation.
He did.
And he did it with a level of patience and strategy that's honestly chilling. Like, where did this guy even come from?
Right. Jackie's rise is the perfect example of how quiet ambition can be just as terrifying, maybe even more so than brute force.
Yeah.
He's been lurking in the shadows this whole time, just carefully manipulating events to his advantage. And now, boom, he emerges as this major power player.
And then there's that bombshell reveal at the end. Jackie was the one behind the car bombing that almost killed Tyson's father. I mean, talk about a game changer.
Yeah, that reveal changes everything.
It really does.
Suddenly, this whole war between Dwight and Kansas City feels so much more personal.
Yeah.
And the stakes are just way higher, especially for Dwight.
Right, he's got even more reason to take Jackie down now. It's like everything we thought we knew about this situation has been flipped on its head.
Completely.
And then, in the middle of all this, Dwight realizes that war is basically unavoidable at this point. He sends his family away for their safety, shuts down all his operations. He even gets a warning from the FBI, thanks to that wiretap they have on Bill, that a hit's coming his way. I mean, he's basically in lockdown mode, just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
It shows that he's thinking strategically, which we haven't always seen from him.
True.
He's recognizing how serious this is and taking steps to protect himself and the people he cares about.
Yeah. But even with all the precautions, tragedy still strikes. One of Bill Bevilaqua's men shoots and kills Jimmy outside the weed shop.
Oh, man.
It's such a gut-wrenching scene because you can see how much it weighs on Dwight. He knew this war was coming, but he couldn't stop this from happening.
Yeah, it's a real turning point in the episode. Jimmy's death marks the official start of the war, and it makes it clear that no one is safe.
No one. And then, to make matters even worse, Armand, remember him, he's spiraling even further out of control.
Oh, no.
After Thresher tosses him aside, he decides to take matters into his own hands.
Oh, boy.
With a gun.
Oh, wow.
He confronts Goody, demands access to Dwight's cash stash. It's like he's on a self-destruct mission at this point.
Yeah, his desperation has just reached this boiling point. He's pushed everyone away, and his actions are just becoming more and more erratic and dangerous.
Yep.
Honestly, I'm worried about what he's going to do next.
Me too. It's like watching a car careening towards a cliff.
It is.
You know it's not going to end well, but you can't look away.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like it's going to be a bad ending, but you can't tear your eyes away.
Right. And we have to talk about the bigger picture here. It started as just a power struggle in Tulsa, but now it's escalated into this crazy multi-sided war with betrayals left and right and alliances constantly shifting.
Right.
And honestly, I think the body count is just going to keep rising.
Oh, yeah, it's like a powder keg.
Totally.
And you just know someone's going to light the fuse.
Exactly. And it feels like anyone could get caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, even the people who think they're in control.
Okay, so that brings us back to Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking earlier about how he took over Thresher's operation, but the ripple effects from that move are huge. Thresher runs to Bill Bevilaqua for help, and that's when the truth about the car bombing finally comes out.
Yeah, that's a big moment.
Yeah.
That's when Bill realizes he's been played this whole time, drawn into a war based on a lie.
Totally.
Talk about a rude awakening, huh?
Seriously. And suddenly, Bill's vendetta against Dwight seems completely misguided. So does he change his priorities now? Will he still keep going after Dwight, or will he go after the guy who was really behind it all?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, and one that the sources are really going back and forth on.
Yeah.
Some people are saying that Bill is too proud to back down from this feud with Dwight,
Yeah.
while others think that this revelation might actually open the door for them to team up, because now they have a common enemy.
Right. And think about what that would mean for Dwight. Could we see him actually working with the guy who's been trying to kill him this whole time? Talk about strange bedfellows.
It would definitely be a huge shift in the whole power dynamic.
And speaking of power dynamics, we have to talk about what happened to Chickie.
Yeah.
I mean, to see the head of the Invernizzi family just get cast out like that, it's not something you see every day.
No, it's not. And it was brutal. It
Yeah.
really highlights how much things are changing, how no one's position is really secure.
Right.
Like 1 minute you're on top and the next you're out in the cold. And with all these different people fighting for power, I mean, the potential for things to spin out of control is just enormous.
It is, yeah. It's
Right.
like the ground is constantly shifting under everyone's feet.
Exactly.
So you've got Dwight preparing for war, Chickie out for revenge, Jackie trying to expand his empire, and then there's Armand.
Oh, Armand.
He's a total wild card at this point.
Yeah, basically a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, and then you've also got the FBI listening in on everything thanks to that wiretap on Bill. It makes you wonder, how are they going to use this information?
Right. Will they try to step in or just sit back and watch everything burn? Well, it definitely adds another layer of complexity to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if they decide to use what they know to pit one of these factions against another.
Yeah, it would be like throwing a match into a room full of gasoline.
Exactly.
And speaking of unpredictable, there's Armand. He's gone from this bumbling, kind of funny character to this desperate, gun-wielding wild card. Is he a real threat at this point, or is he just kind of flailing around?
It's tough to say, and I think that's what makes him so dangerous. He's not thinking clearly. He's driven by fear and revenge.
Yeah.
I mean, he could easily cause a lot more violence and bloodshed, even if he doesn't mean to.
It's actually kind of a sad story when you think about it. He used to be one of the funny characters, but now he's just become this tragic figure, a warning about what happens when you get caught up in all this.
It's a good reminder that even the characters who seem less important can have a big impact on how things unfold, especially when they get desperate.
Absolutely. So with all these different players, who do you think is going to come out on top of this whole mess?
It's impossible to know for sure. Things are changing so fast, no one's alliances are solid, and the stakes are higher than ever. But I think one thing's for sure. It's going to be a bloodbath. There's going to be a lot of loss, a lot of betrayal, and probably a few more surprises along the way.
Yeah, it's like a game of chess where the rules keep changing and every move could set off a whole chain reaction. It really feels like we're at this turning point. Like everything that's happened has been leading up to this. And whatever comes out of this war, it's going to completely change the balance of power in Tulsa.
Right. And what's so interesting about this episode is how it makes you question who the good guys even are.
Right.
Like everyone's operating in this gray area.
Yeah.
They're all driven by their own sense of loyalty, ambition,
It's true. You can't really root for one side or the other because they're all doing things that are kind of messed up in their own way.
Right. Even the characters you thought were maybe the good guys, they do things that surprise you.
Yeah, they're all capable of some pretty shocking stuff.
Yeah. It really makes you think about what you would do in that situation. Like, where do you draw the line?
For sure. Okay, so back to the big question.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to come out on top? I mean, it's hard to say, but based on what we've seen so far, who do you think has the advantage right now?
You know, it's tempting to say Jackie.
Yeah.
Because he's been playing the long game so well. He's so strategic.
Yeah.
But he's also ruthless. I mean, that car bombing.
Oh, yeah.
That could definitely come back to bite him.
Especially now that Bill knows the truth.
Exactly. Jackie's made a powerful enemy there. And I don't think we should count Dwight out just yet.
Yeah.
He may be on the defensive, but he's shown that he can be strategic too.
Yeah. He's got a few tricks up his sleeve.
And he's resilient. He doesn't give up easily.
Right, right. And don't forget about the tribe. What if they decide to back Dwight? I mean, that could be a real game changer.
Yeah, it just goes to show that in this world, you never really know who's going to end up on what side.
Totally. And then there's Armand. I mean, who knows what he's going to do?
No. He's such a wild card. He could really shake things up. I mean, what's he going to do with that gun?
All right. It's like having a loose cannon rolling around on deck.
Exactly.
So basically, anything could happen.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this show so great. The writers have created this world where there are so many possibilities.
Yeah, the suspense is killing me.
Same here. I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Me too. But before we go, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. I mean, we've seen how quickly things can escalate, how one act of violence can lead to another and another.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, what does it even mean to win in this kind of world?
That's a good question, because sometimes it seems like even the winners lose in the end.
Right. It's like there's always a price to pay.
Exactly.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, but this has been an awesome deep dive.
It really has.
And I think we all learned a lot about just how complicated and dangerous this world can be.
Yeah, there are a lot of layers to it.
We'll be back next week to unpack even more, so make sure you tune in.
Right. Definitely.
Until then, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks everyone.